know that elderflower can work as an antihistamine. But does it work? Like, it's really great to read it in the books. So I've had a practice of complementary medicine for the past 30 years. I deal with chronic ear infections, chronic strep throat, chronic miscarriages, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, many, many, many conditions. And what I've seen over 30 years of practice is that botanical medicine really works, and it really changes people's challenges in life. So if I hadn't seen it and had clients experience it, I could be skeptical. So here's what I have to say. If you break a bone, I think that current medicine is phenomenal with MRIs and x-rays, and go get yourself an x-ray, go to an orthopedist, and go ahead and get a cast. But then there's herbal medicine that can help knit the bone. I remember my daughter, we were in upstate New York in a bungalow. My little daughter, I think she was 3 at the time, was jumping on the bed. They were old, bungalow type beds. I said, don't jump on the bed. Of course, she said, I want to. And the next thing I know, she flies off and she breaks her arm. So I'm not an idiot, even though I'm an herbalist. I took her immediately to the emergency room. She got an x-ray and she put on a cast. They said she was going to need a cast for at least 8 weeks with the type of break that she had. When they x-rayed her arms at 3 weeks, they were like, how could this kid have gotten better so quickly? Like, I really think we could take off the cast early. And that was the blessing of botanical medicine. So we trained herbalists. I'm not talking about people that go to, a weekend and become an aromatherapist. I did a 5-year classical homeopathic program where we study anatomy and physiology, disease process. We learn all about the allopathic or conventional medicines that are used. And then we learn about botanical medicine so that clients can decide whether they want to use the statins for high cholesterol, or if they're having all the side effects from the insert of the medicine, they may want to use botanical medicine. So we that are trained know that everything has its place in the world. But what I have seen after 30 years of practice is that when kids get chronic ear infections, chronic fluid in their ears, when you put tubes in the ears, it doesn't get rid of the fluid. It just moves the fluid from the eustachian tubes into another part of their body. As herbalists, we want to stop the body from producing that excess fluid. So what I want to say is that traditional medicine is herbal botanical medicine. What we've had with the advent of modern technology is we have ways to be able to look into the body and see what's going on. But sometimes that can be deceiving, and you always have to ask the client or the patient, what are they feeling? What are they experiencing? Because you can look at a scan and say A, and they can really be experiencing B. And as an herbalist, we're treating the person, not the condition. And I think that's the most important thing. And I see, Sanger, you have a question, but we're treating the person, not the condition. If someone has multiple sclerosis and you get 15 people in the room with MS, you're going to hear 15 different experiences, 15 different symptoms. So we want to treat what the person's experiencing, not what we call it.
Sanger, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. So I do. So when we, one of the things we want to do on Decidedly is to look at sort of collecting the wisdom of people with a lot of different experiences, bring those in to be able to share that in helping decision-making, across the board. So when we look at the decision around whether somebody ought to engage with homeopathy, herbal medicine versus modern medicine, how would you make the decision? It sounds like you're coming down on the side of, hey, this can always be an add-on. This can always be something you ought to try in addition. But are there times where somebody is looking at an either or? I'm not talking about a broken arm. I'm talking about looking at whether I use a statin or one of these things that you're advocating for. How do I decide which one to go with? Or is it a situation where I'd say, well, I'm always going to do this herbalist add-on?
So that's great. Let's jump right into the ability to make decisions that resonate with a person. So knowledge is power. And let's talk about a mom who at 2 o'clock in the morning has a kid that's screaming at the top of their lungs with an ear infection. And let's say you completely want to use conventional medicine, but you've given the baby Tylenol and or Advil and the child's still screaming. It's so important for parents, in my experience, to have different herbal, botanical, homeopathic options to help calm that child down and get out of pain until you can see the doctor if that's the decision that you're making. Another thing is that most of our doctors, if we're lucky, spend 6 minutes with us. And here's another decision. I'm a mother of 7 children. I have a girl, 5 boys, and a girl. And I didn't choose to go to the doctor that often, but when I did, I wanted their knowledge. And I knew that I only had 6 minutes with them. So I used to book a double session. So I'd get 12 minutes and I would kind of situate my chair in front of the door so the doctor couldn't leave. And I'd pre-write out all my questions so that I walked away with the knowledge that I needed. So what I find is that a lot of people get scared of their diagnosis or intimidated by what the doctors say, and they shut down. So they're not really having the ability to decide what to do. Their doctor hands them a statin. And clinical studies show that if you take statins in and of itself, it may lower the cholesterol levels. But studies are showing that they have the same amount of heart attacks with people that are on statins and not on statins. And you can look up those statistics. So making a proper decision would be, okay, I'm taking the statin, but what else can I do if I want to prevent heart attack? And that's right now where I feel conventional medicine is not giving us the knowledge that we need. So in order to make the decisions that people need in their health care, I feel they need to be knowledgeable. And I'm going to give a great story. I had a guy that came to me because he had a panic attack. He was married. He actually not only loved his wife, but he liked her also. He had 3, you get that? He had 3 kids, and he made a living teaching. So on the way to teaching, he had this panic attack. So, oh my God, he never had a panic attack in his life. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him anti-anxiety medicine. And he was still having panic attacks. And he went back to the doctor, and he got a different medication, and he continued to have panic attacks. So he came to me and said, Sara-Chana, I don't really believe in alternative medicine, but all my sisters go to you. And so the bottom line was that I wanted him to get a full body massage. He's like, what? I'm not that kind of guy. I said, you've got all this tension and all this stress in your body. You're so busy trying to figure out what these panic attacks are coming from. I want a weekly massage. Why? Because we know that getting a massage lowers your cortisol levels. And you have a panic attack. Cortisol is your stress hormones in your body. You have a panic attack when your cortisol levels go up. So lo and behold, against everything he wanted to do, he went and got a massage weekly and came back and said, I feel calmer. So then I was like, great. Now you need to learn how to breathe deeply. Now remember, he's on conventional, allopathic, traditional medicine of anti-anxiety, and it was only doing very little for him. So at the end of the day, he learned how to breathe. I didn't even feel like he had to meditate, like just learn how to inhale and exhale. He needed to have that confidence that when his body gets all tight, he's going to go get a massage. And at the end of us working together for 6 months, he had these incredible skills. So if he was stuck on some island or all the electricity went out in the city and he couldn't refill his prescription, or he ended up in the middle of the woods and had a panic attack, he had skills to learn how to lower his cortisol levels and calm down.
So something like that, getting a massage, lowering cortisol levels, learning to breathe and increasing oxygen levels, those are proven to have scientific beneficial effects. So a lot of the problem I've got is where somebody is touting something there's not scientific evidence to back that up? And how do we decide what is something that is appropriate add-on treatment, like you just described, versus something that's just horse shit that isn't going to do anything? How does somebody decide which path to follow? How do you cut through all the noise that's out there?
So, what you really need to understand is, in order to do a clinical double-blind study, it costs at least $1 million. Like, it's a lot of money to give someone the medicine, give someone a placebo, have someone come in and check in, and have people calculate and keep track of the results. Okay? So, not a lot of those studies are being done with botanical medicine. So we as herbalists know that we love the studies when they're made. We have to see how those studies are being conducted. And, there's something called traditional wisdom. And wisdom from generation to generation and culture to culture. And that's what I feel we have to start introducing back into our lives so people really have free choice. I'm going to tell you about one study. About 10 years ago, I'm driving in the car like a maniac. I've got 7 kids. I cut people off, give them the finger. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in New York. You know what I mean? You have to kind of drive like that, right? So I'm kind of a tough lady. I'm doing my thing, taking my kids all over the place. And I hear this study on the radio that echinacea, which is a plant, it is used for colds and flu and to help modulate or regulate your immune system. In this study, it doesn't help lessen the symptoms. It doesn't shorten the duration. And as a matter of fact, echinacea doesn't do anything. I was shocked. I'm a master herbalist. That's not what I've seen for 30 years, but okay, let me look into the study. So, Sean, as you said, how do we know it's not horse shit, right? Or is it real? So I looked at the study, and the study went like this. It was conducted at Harvard University. But what happens is people will rent out the Harvard lab and the Harvard staff. That's how they make money. So lo and behold, it was a pharmaceutical company that was financing this study, number one. Number two was they gave echinacea in pill form. If you work with an herbalist, we use it in liquid form. Number three is they didn't tell you what the dosage is. And Sean, I'm only 5 feet tall, like 125 pounds. I think, Sean, you look a little taller than 5 feet tall, probably weigh a little bit more than 125 pounds. So the dosage that would be appropriate for you and me would be completely different. And during the study, they said you could take any kind of antihistamine or NyQuil cold and flu. So basically, Sean, the study was ridiculous. It was completely ridiculous. But because they did it at Harvard and they spent the money, they could disprove that echinacea works. Why? Why is that the case? Because the American Academy of Pediatrics had put out a request to pediatricians to stop treating ear infections with antibiotics because they were getting with a lot of kids MRSA, which is an antibiotic-resistant infection, which you can get from overuse of antibiotics. So what were people doing? They were coming with their kids that had a virus or had an ear infection. They went to health food stores and said, help! And they were asking people at that time that were making like $8 an hour in the health food store. And they'd say, well, I don't know exactly what to do, but take some echinacea, take some elderberry, and kids were getting better. So pharmaceutical companies basically freaked out because kids were getting better with botanical medicine. So they created this bogus study. So Sean, that's just an example of who's going to spend the money to test an herb called lemon balm. It's in the mint family. Sean and Sanger could grow it on your windowsill.
So there's not the benefit of putting millions of dollars. There's not the financial reward for somebody to put millions of dollars into creating a study that that touts the benefits of echinacea or elderberry or any other plant that grows for free in my garden at home. Okay. Do you,
Yes.
how much of the lack of scientific evidence is supported by that